Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. In the first story, we'll tell you how you can get back at the manager who steals your electricity for his car. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Steal electricity? Good luck getting home. A little backstory first. I work for a company that's part of a small strip mall. Located in the strip mall to our immediate left is a pho restaurant, and to the right we have a dental office. Located at the rear of the building between us and the dental office is a maintenance room for the building. Each store manager has a key to this room. Here's the problem. The pho place moved in back in May or so, and since day one the manager's been plugging his Nissan Leaf into an outlet in the maintenance room to charge. The car only has a range of about 90 miles, and he drives over an hour to work, so he has to charge it during the day. This wouldn't be a problem if he was using the electricity they pay for, but he isn't. This has gone mostly unnoticed by our landlord because she's rarely around. That is, however, until last night. To plug his car in, the pho manager had to prop open the door to the maintenance room. And in Iowa, our winters can get fairly brisk. For instance, today the wind chill is a balmy -20. Some equipment in the maintenance room is temperature controlled, and last night the temperature dipped below the acceptable threshold. When our landlord made her way here, however, the car was gone and the door closed. So when she received another temperature warning this morning, she decided to come back. Mr. Pho Manager parks his car directly outside our back door so the cord can reach the maintenance room. So naturally, my day begins with our landlord pounding on our back door, demanding to know who the car belongs to. I kindly informed her that it belongs to the manager of the pho restaurant. When asked why nobody had mentioned it to her, I told her I had just assumed she'd approved it. I was told in no uncertain terms that she had not. She then proceeded to ask one of my associates how long this had been going on, to which he responded it'd been occurring since they set up shop in May. As you can imagine, she was less than thrilled with this news. She proceeded to thank us for our time and stormed toward the pho restaurant. Now for the revenge. Our landlord proceeded to call me after approximately 20 minutes to inform me she'd spoken with the pho employees and manager, and nobody seemed to remember who drove the car. To solve the problem, she came up with a simple solution, and unfortunately for them, her pettiness levels are over 9,000. She took their maintenance room key back and proceeded to unplug the charger from his car, finally locking it in her maintenance room. She was kind enough to leave a note telling the owner if they would like to get home to give her a call. The best part is, since the car takes approximately 8 hours for a full charge, pho manager plugs it in all day. But since it had been unplugged less than an hour after being plugged in, when he goes to leave this evening, he'll not only have to call her to get his charger back, but will have to wait the remaining 7 hours or so for an adequate charge to get home. Hope he didn't have plans. And our second story. Guilty of doing a good job. This happened to me a few years back. I was working in the IT help desk of a well-known restaurant based in Chicago. I'd gotten the job through the help of a friend of mine who was the help desk manager at the time. My friend was very adamant about checking in on the help desk ticket metrics and making sure that everyone on the team was pulling their own weight. Basically, for those who don't know, most help desks use a ticketing system to keep track of all IT requests that come in. Anyway, my friend was known for being good about his particular ticket metrics tracking and being able to decipher them and later present them to the leadership team. However, he was laid off due to a squabble he had with one of the directors of a different department. This had happened at the same time that a new CIO was hired. In comes a new IT manager who had eventually admitted to me that he was actually close friends with the CIO and that had never held a management position ever in his life. I found out that his skill set was in programming and scripting, but his weakness was confrontation as well as other management procedures. However, his biggest flaw was that he followed processes and procedures to a T. One of those being that, for some god-awful reason, we were not allowed to discuss any tickets with anyone. This was supposed to be interpreted as the help desk not being able to discuss tickets to other individuals outside of the IT department due to the sensitivity of their nature. If I brought up ticket to my manager, he would shut me up and say he didn't want to hear about it. About a month went by when the time came for metrics evaluations. I was escorted into a conference room by my manager. He tells me that out of all the individuals of the IT help desk, I had the most reopened tickets in the queue. I should mention that by this point of my time working there, my manager had decided to push my shift from the regular first shift, 9 to 5, over to second shift, which was from 1 to 10. This was to provide coverage for shops outside of our time zone. I explained to him that there were a plethora of reasons why I had opened tickets, one being that every day that I came in, I was stuck working at the mass amount of tickets that the morning shift neglected to touch. I was on my own working from 6 to 10, and ultimately the main reason for my reopens I could not discuss per his policy. He got really angry with me and said that I needed to improve my numbers and get less reopened tickets. Instead of arguing, I simply complied and went on my way. Another month went by, and by this time I had accrued more tickets in my name, which also meant more tickets being reopened. I get called into a meeting again, and this time it's with my boss, the CIO, and the head of HR. They bring up my reopened ticket count, and I again explain the same gripes from the past. They place me on a corrective action program and simply told me, if you can't fix by the next time we meet, we're going to have to fire you. My immediate response was, well, if you fire me, I will seek legal counsel. I told you that I cannot discuss my tickets with you thanks to my manager's strict policy guidance. He has the ability to go look at the tickets but refuses. The CIO threatened to get the ticket system vendor to send a specialist to get a fully detailed report to see just how bad I was doing. I kept my cool and simply said, sure, let's go with that. If you see that I really have been failing, then I will voluntarily quit. The following week, the vendor shows up, and he's set up in one of the conference rooms. I would swing by from time to time, asking if he needed anything. He knew who I was by this point, and all he would say is, "This is funny as hell. I can't wait to provide this report." Towards the end of the day, I get called into the conference room. I see my manager, the CIO, the head of HR, the vendor, and now even the CEO of the company. My manager is as pale as if he'd seen a ghost. The CIO couldn't look me in the eye and was at a loss of words. I broke the silence and, without trying to appear smug, asked, "Is everything all right?" The vendor excitedly announces, "Well, kid, the only thing you're guilty of is being a damn good employee." The CEO immediately interrupted and apologized on behalf of the company for having put me through so much crap. At this point, I knew exactly what happened, but I wanted to hear it straight from the source. I look at the vendor and ask him to read out the rest of the report. He then says, "With you being the only individual to close the most tickets compared to all your colleagues combined, you have the reopen rate of about 95%. Out of those 95%, only 2% are reopened due to the fixes not sticking or due to a completely irrelevant issue, which you all should let your employees know to create new tickets rather than reopening a previous ticket. As for the other 93%, they are all people responding, thanking you for your work." He almost couldn't contain his laughter while presenting the physical report. He further went on to mention that all this could have been avoided had I been able to discuss these tickets with my boss, or if my boss even bothered to actually go look at the tickets themselves. About a month later, my boss tells me that he wants to promote me to the IT lead position as well as give me a raise. I turned it down. It was the perfect opportunity for me, and I told him I was putting in my 2 weeks' notice. He tried talking me out of it, but there was no way he could convince me. I basically told him that any confidence and trust I had with the company was destroyed during my earlier debacle. My raise at the time was withheld due to his own mistakes, and there was no way the company would be able to match the offer I was being given at the new gig. And our last story. So you want to play dirty? Well, I'll show you dirty. Back in the mid-90s, I acquired a job at a local parts store. There was the manager, Lou, the assistant manager, Brian, and me, OP, along with 3 more employees. I quickly ascended the ranks, and within a month, I was swing manager. This made Brian uneasy. Brian began to find fault with everything I did and tried everything in his power to make me look bad in front of Lou. This went on for months. Anytime I closed and R opened, there was always an issue. The door wasn't locked, the alarm wasn't set, the store was a mess. However, none of this happened whenever I closed and Lou opened, or if Lou and Brian opened together. Lou mentioned to me to watch my back around Brian because the DM would be making his rounds soon, and Brian's input might hurt my chances for another promotion. I formulated a plan. I waited until a day in which Lou and I opened together, and Brian came in later to close. Around 11:30, I mentioned to Lou that I was hungry and would he like a sandwich from Busway before I left. He mentioned that I'd been doing more computer work lately and had some extra money, so it was no big deal. He could buy my lunch sometime later. I said, okay. I went and got lunch, we ate, and he left. Around 2 p.m., Brian came in, and my first order of business was asking him if I could borrow $10 for lunch because I was starving and hadn't eaten. He was all, "Oh, man, no, I sure don't." Before I left that evening, I took $50 from the register. I was off the next day. I went and bought beer and cigarettes. The following day, when I returned, Lou met me at the door and said, "OP, I had to fire your buddy." I said, "What? Why?" He said the register came up short, and when it did, the first thing out of his mouth was, "It was OP. He was asking me for money to get lunch with." Lou said, I looked him in the eye and said, "I know you're a damn liar. He ate lunch with me and even bought mine. You've been trying to sabotage him from day one, and I'm sick of it. You're fired. Get your stuff and get out." Over the course of the next few months, I slowly paid the money I'd taken back into the register. In less than a year, I decided that I wanted to do computers full-time, so I quit. A few years later, I met Brian in a store somewhere in town. His only words to me was, "You're a SOB." Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.